House of the Dragon's premiere beat The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power by a wide margin, according to new viewership data. After months and months of anticipation, the two fantasy prequel shows have now both had their much ballyhooed premieres. House of the Dragon returns to Westeros about 200 years before Game of Thrones, while The Rings of Power transports audiences to back in time to the Second Age of Middle-earth, thousands of years before The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Both fantasy shows have been received splendidly well by critics thus far. House of the Dragon's reviews have celebrated a strong start for the Game of Thrones prequel, while Amazon's Rings of Power has been similarly praised as a worthy successor to Lord of the Rings. Game of Thrones fans have responded enthusiastically to House of the Dragon, while on the other hand, Rings of Power has had issues with review bombing. Both fantasy shows are bound to be popular, but which emerges as the clear favorite among audiences remains to be seen. Now, thanks to new viewing numbers, House of the Dragon appears to be the early frontrunner in the fantasy war. According to Samba TV data shared by Luis Fernando on Twitter, House of the Dragon's premiere episode was watched by 4.8 million total United States households, beating out Rings of Power by a wide margin, which was only viewed by 1.8 million. Check out the data below. Previously, HBO declared that House of the Dragon's debut drew nearly 10 million viewers, while Amazon claimed that Rings of Power was watched by 25 million global viewers in its first 24 hours of streaming, both setting records for their respective networks. Samba TV's numbers differ slightly since they use a different method for measuring viewership, and as a third-party researcher, perhaps a more objective one. According to these numbers, House of the Dragon appears to be the more popular show early on. While House of the Dragon has emerged as the clear frontrunner, this should not be considered a crushing loss for Rings of Power. According to Samba TV's own figures, Amazon's Lord of the Rings show is amongst great company as the fourth biggest premiere of the year behind the Game of Thrones prequel, Stranger Things, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. House of the Dragon Season 2 has already been confirmed, while The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power will run for 5 seasons, so at the end of the day, both fantasy shows are here to stay. Source: Samba TV data. Luis Fernando, Twitter.
With a gentle touch, you tell me what all love I have to share. It must be 'cause you are what I all knew. Only you do know, you do know, you do know. Oh, you do know the Aquarius. Still moving, still sad, thought to know what went wrong. Have sat there low and flow in one if you could bring them down if only